Going live, going live. The Jaguars fumble away a game in Philadelphia. And boy, was it ugly. I'll tell you all about it here on a special postcast of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for joining us for a special postcast edition of Locked On Jaguars. I am your host, Tony Wiggins, and we thank you for allowing us to be here as your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. And I wish I could be joining you on a better note because the Jaguars fell short today. And they fell short in a lot of ways with the final score of 29-21 in Philadelphia. Lots of things happened today that are going to be extremely telling about this team. And as I see the comments come in, I'll read some of them as I'm going along here. It's okay. Can't have it all. Learning experience. All of that stuff. Yeah, that's all true. But listen, shout out to Mr. Dolphin. And yeah, I haul, bro. What's up, my boy? Here's the thing that I want to point out. There are a lot of questions that we were going to constantly have to ask and answer about this team. And some of them came up today, okay? So I'll go along and I'll tell you some of the things that I'm talking about. One of the things is we've asked about Trevor Lawrence. We've talked about whether or not he's a generational talent or is he a generational quarterback. And I've always said that there was a difference between the two. Having generational talent is one thing. Being a generational quarterback is quite another. So I'm going to give him some time to grow into whether or not he's a generational quarterback. I think he has the talent, though. But I'm going to give you an example of why today, shout out to MDarry145, who says today's game was a fluke. It was not a fluke. And as much as I want to be sunshine and rainbows, I can't do that. It's because there are things that if you're a frequent listener to this podcast, there are things that we talked about that you hope not to see, right? So we bragged all of this time about how the Jaguars for the last couple of weeks were punching people in their mouth and they were big and physical. We talk all the time about how they have to play ahead of the sticks on first down, get at least 5 yards. We talk all the time about how they have to play ahead of the sticks defensively so that they keep people in long down and distance so they get to their sub package, right? You saw them do the total opposite today. We mentioned that the dumb penalties, face masks, using illegal hands to the face, roughing the punter, roughing the kicker, letting them run more time off the clock at the end of the game. We talked about all of those things as things that had gone away and weren't around and had disappeared. But today you saw them rear their ugly head. So here's the thing. Can you be good also when things are going good or when things are going bad? Or are you just good when you're a front runner? The reason why I bring up Trevor with the generational talent stuff, because generational talent as far as throwing the ball, there have been a lot of guys who could do that. Vinny Testaverde could do that. Jay Cutler could do that. Jeff George could do that. But the thing that separated them from the guys that had that sort of talent, like Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers and Brady, the people that did it and did not make those mistakes, were they also lived for the moment. It wasn't just about being able to make a throw here or there. And I don't care what level of football that you have ever played at or watched, 5 turnovers, I don't care if it's in the rain or the snow, because the other guy didn't turn the ball over 5 times, 4 fumbles inside of the pocket where there's a total lack of awareness. Don't tell me you won Zay Jones away from not having that type of game. And to do it when field position is switched and changed as it pertains to the bigger picture. The bigger picture. I see somebody, Jamil says that he just needs gloves on. That ain't it either. All right. Gloves ain't going to stop you from getting the ball knocked out of your hand. I ain't never seen that before. So the thing is from a big picture standpoint, we have to ask ourselves about this variance of play that I talked about. Are we going to be getting this all the time from him where he's either really, really good and then really, really bad? Because if that's what you're going to get, that's not good for the franchise, because then you'll never know, or you'll never find out who you are. You'll never really have an identity, and you'll never know what to expect. And though people might think that it doesn't matter, defensively it did matter. You keep sticking those dudes out there after they get stops, and then all of a sudden you turn it back over. At some point, you're going to have a little bit of what you saw, a little body language issues, guys getting frustrated. I'm telling you, man, this is the second game in a row where it's all about Trevor and Doug. Doug not committing to the run. We got to find out if James Robinson had some sort of injury, or if, just like any other coach, he naturally was like weary because James Robinson fumbled the ball that absolutely got recovered and got the Jaguars saved early. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead. And I said, hey, they ain't checking in with nobody. The Jaguars don't have to check in with anybody. The Jaguars are pressing lines on everyone. And then they got the line pressed back on them by Philly, who were banged up, by the way. So this is why I say I don't take excuses when folks didn't want to give Jacksonville credit for last week for beating the Chargers, who was banged up. I said, it's not an excuse, because Philly was banged up today too, and look what happened. That's why when you win in the NFL, you win in the NFL, and you cannot just sit here and allow people to make excuses about winning and to let that stuff go as if when you win, it's not, you didn't really win a game, but then when you did win the game, the other team was banged up. It doesn't matter. In the NFL, people are going to be banged up, man. In the NFL, folks get banged up all the time. So, Philly was banged up. If that was the case, the Jaguars would have won today. I'm going to tell you some good and some bad things about today's game from a schematic standpoint and from a roster building standpoint. But then I'm also going to pull y'all from under the bus. I'm going to come down off the ledge, and I'm going to let you know why there's still a little bit of silver lining here. And I'm going to explain those things to you in just a second as we move forward here on Locked On Jaguars. After I tell you guys about PrizePicks, I'm still alive, man. I got a 5-team hookup on mine where I've selected 5 teams on my daily fantasy entries with their player projections. And right now, I'm winning 4 of them. I've already won, even if I have to move to the flex option if my 5th game, which starts at 4 o'clock, doesn't win. I'm still going to win because I chose the flex option. And you can do the same thing by going to PrizePicks.com or downloading the PrizePicks app, right? You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they go score more or less than their PrizePicks projection and you get it right, you can win up to 10 times your money. That's right. It's the PrizePicks app. Make sure you download. Now, you'll get $100 up to a $100 deposit match on PrizePicks if you use the promo code Locked On. That's whatever your first deposit, your initial deposit is at sign up. When you use the promo code Locked On, they'll match that and make it instantly and give it to you so you can start playing right away. It's prizepicks.com. Don't forget, it's daily fantasy entries on player projections, and all you got to do is choose more or less and pick either between 2 and 5 entries, and you can win. I also want to let you know about Built Bar Puffs. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor, delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. It's a little different texture from the bar, but it's still the same good deliciousness with the same characteristic of having 100% real chocolate. Now, they're only 160 calories, the puffs are, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. So run to built.com to snag a box for you and your family. It would be a perfect treat, or you can find a really good hiding place and just hoard them for yourself. Here's the offer. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, locked on 15, make it one word, locked on 15, and get 15% off your order. Once again, the promo code is locked on 15 for 15% off your next order at Built Bar. All right, rolling along here on the Postcast, man. I see I got 26 people in the building right now. And I also post this up as a postcast on YouTube, and as well as on wherever you get your podcast, wherever you usually get your podcast when you hear the Locked On Jaguars podcast. All right. So one of the other bad things that we talked about before I give you the good thing to send you on your way. They kept 2 defensive tackles. I don't know if Folo Fadakazi was injured, but I noticed that at the end of the game, there was only Devon Hamilton on the field. One of the things I said that when they're in their base, they came out today and played a lot of 4-man fronts. One of the things I said about when they're in their base, if they have them both in the game and then they go to a sub package, one of them comes out or sometimes both of them come out. But if they got into a situation where they had to stop the run and they had them both in the game at the same time or one at a time, that might be a problem. The Jaguars have 2 guys that weigh over 300 pounds on the defensive line. That Kelsey dude is an all-pro, probably a future Hall of Famer, and Landon Dickerson right next to him weighs about 340 pounds. And you saw how they were pushing and bullying the Jaguars off of their spots in the fourth quarter. That is a roster issue. That is a problem when you face a good team. When you face a good team. Now, let me set the record straight about something real quick, all right? Because this is a quick 12-minute postcast for you to enjoy after the game, just to kind of settle you down a little bit. Let me tell you the good news. You ready? There is actually some good news. I mentioned last week that I don't think the Jaguars are ever going to be blown out in the game. If there was ever a game they should have been blown out, it's one where they did not win time of possession. Their quarterback was responsible for 5 turnovers. Most of them either while the Jaguars were going to score or right back in Philly's territory, deep, and Philly didn't have to go very far to get field goals. 4 fumbles from Trevor Lawrence and 3 fumbles and 1 pick up until the last turnover, where they had a chance with the ball and they had a shot to go actually win the game or tie the game at the end. Just imagine that. They gave up over 200 yards rushing. They had 5 turnovers, all in either extreme plus scoring range, one way or the other. Trevor Lawrence had an awful day. He was overthrowing people, throwing too hot and heavy and hard in the rain on screen passes. They didn't run the ball enough. They had 70-some-odd yards rushing. And the Jaguars had the ball in their hands with a chance to go tie the game. That's why I don't think they're going to get blown out. But in order for them to improve and in order for them to advance, they cannot have their best players being the reason why they lost. And they cannot have folks questioning the coach about what they were going to do on offense and run the ball. If you say you want to run the ball and then you go out and you don't run it, what is the problem? Do you not trust your offensive line? And so all of these things weren't really questions before, but they're questions now because you were playing a really, really good team. And when you're playing a really, really good team, nobody's going to think about the fact that, okay, well, we didn't expect to be 2-2 at this point anyway, and we're improved. Nobody care about that stuff. That stuff was yesterday. You only care about what's in front of your face right now. How good are you? So you can have an honest assessment of what you need to expect as a fan. How good are you? And it's hard to tell how good you are when you shoot yourself in the foot. And maybe that characteristic of shooting yourself in the foot is a part of who you are. We've had 2 games now where they can say they didn't give themselves an honest chance to do anything. That can't be a characteristic. That can't be something that's who you are. That's part of your DNA. It can't be, but right now it is. And we're going to get the questions about Trevor Lawrence this week again. We're going to find people going to wonder if he's Jay Cutler. And you know what? He deserves it. They won't say it, but you know how many coaches over the years I've heard that can't stand this? And if you see me on YouTube, I'm pointing to myself saying, my bad. That's on me. We know it's on you. Stop. I've had coaches over the years say that they just take it when kids say that or guys say that, mostly in college. Okay, we get it. We get it. You're taking accountability. Good. You win a trophy for taking it. At some point, standing up in front of a microphone saying, I have to be better, while that's noble, at some point, you can't say that every week. At some point, that smile like, I can't believe I did that, while people are agonizing over you losing. Folks done drove to Philly and stood in the rain at the game, and they're in pure agony, and all you got is a smile and a chest. But no, at some point, people are going to say, well, that's just who you are. He's always going to be the guy that's going to pat his chest. So I agree. Young team learning how to win, but keep that same energy when they start winning and you start saying how great they are. They're still a young team learning how to win. The question is, will they and can they overcome it before their confidence is all shot? I'm thinking Doug probably learned a lot about his team today, and I think the Jaguar fans did too, and so did I. So now we all have questions. You can catch me every single day on the Locked On Jaguars podcast, right here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Please chime in. I'll have a full episode for you on tomorrow. And in just a few minutes, I will be releasing an instant reaction. But you guys got the most instant reaction you could. Someone asked me, Michael Martin asked me, did Doug get out coached? I don't know. When you guys are fumbling, I guess that's a part of your coaching. But make no, the Eagles are, somebody said the Jacksonville Crickets. Okay. The Eagles are a really, really good team, and they were the measuring stick right now where things like this are going to happen. Okay. Corey Lamp, you made a good point. Eagles won by 8 after Trevor Lawrence had one of his worst games I've ever seen. Not impressed. All right, cool. Clarence Dunn said he still doesn't have any bad feelings about his Jags. Right on. I need friends like you. All right, man. Check me out tomorrow here on Locked On Jaguars podcast, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Until next time, take care.